Today's guest is a trailblazer of football refereeing in Australia. Canberra's Delfina Shakespear became just the second assistant referee to officiate in 100 women's A-League games in late 2024 and was a finalist earlier this year for the ACT Australian of the Year in the Local Hero category for her commitment to gender equality in sport. She's also a project manager at Sports Integrity Australia in the area of empowering women and girls in sport. Thanks so much for your time today, Delfina.
Thanks for having me, Abby.
I want to just start with asking about what you were like as a kid and I guess your involvement in sport. Like, did it play a big role in your life when you were a kid?
A huge role in my life. I think like most Aussie kids, always sport on the telly, always out and about in the park. I've been around sport my whole life. So grew up in a Macedonian heritage family,
Okay.
very proud of that. And so football is like a big part of our DNA. So grew up, in Wollongong. So Wollongong Wolves, like we used to go watch the games as a kid up on Brandon Park on the hill on a Friday night, and getting up early with my dad to watch Champions League and really be engaged in football from that perspective. But I didn't start out playing football. I used to play netball,
Okay.
and did for like most of my like primary school into high school, and then made the switch to football. Eventually, I think I grinded down my poor mum and ended up playing football, but also like not just playing. So like I used to coach my little sister's team. Used to volunteer at the local club, so like had a lot of engagement in the game, and then transitioned into my role now, which is as a referee.
Yeah, so you obviously loved football and you had that played a massive part in your life when you were younger. Like, did you ever think about, like you mentioned, coaching like your sister's younger team? Like, did you ever think about maybe doing that, or was it always you maybe wanted to play it or referee?
I love playing. Wasn't much of a player. Like I could like hold my own, but I wasn't ever going to be a Matilda. But I think as well, like refereeing was just something I kind of stumbled into. So, it got to that stage, which a lot of young girls do, which as we see now, the dropout rates around participation for women and girls,
Yeah.
especially after about 15, 16, a lot of girls stop playing sport. So I was kind of getting to like that 16, 17 phase, heading into the HSC. I was like working part-time, was still playing sport. And it was about that balance. And then I was like, well, and someone said to me, why don't you just ref? Like you get paid and you get to be involved and you have the best seat in the house. And for me, I just went, I might go and give it a go, and went along to my local course down at the fraternity club in Wollongong. Went into the room of 100 candidates and I was the only girl. And I went,
Wow.
oh, this is a different environment, but kind of stuck it out and found out that I really loved it. Bit
Wow.
different. Yeah.
That's really cool. But like, did you ever think you would still be doing it like now, I guess, like at an elite level, or was it just like you said, a bit of a fun thing then to stay involved in sport?
I'll be honest, I never in my wildest dreams pictured being an A-League's official or W League at that time. I loved it, and I really loved doing like the local Illawarra Premier League is what I was refereeing at the time, and then moving into the New South Wales system like as part of their first academy, so Referees Academy here. When I was kind of the end of high school, start of university, I really enjoyed it. The money was good, I was keeping fit, meeting lots of people, building a good network, but I wasn't the most athletic or the highest in my participation. Like even when I went along to national tournaments, I wasn't ever like top dog. Like I was around middle of the pack, and when my opportunities kind of came along, I kind of took them with both hands. I think moving to Canberra really changed that for me, because I fell out of love with refereeing for a little while, and when I moved to Canberra, like it's a brand new city. Like I've lived in Wollongong my whole life, and now moving to somewhere that is the equivalent of Antarctica. It's cold, very cold. And when I moved there, I was like, I'm moving for my career. Like I'm focused on that. As
Yeah.
with most people, when they get to that phase, they transition. And I remember the referees manager at the time, she said to me, she was like, oh, give it a crack, Del. Give us 12 months, meet some people, run around, because Canberra's one of these places that you need to have like a community around you to
Yeah.
feel really settled. And, I started refereeing in the NPL competition in the ACT, and I was kind of enjoying it, and it was a bit more challenging. And someone looked at me and went, you know what, you should give this whole A-League thing a crack. Like we've got a women's team based here. There might be an opportunity coming up. And at that stage, I wasn't an assistant. So I had to learn the craft of being a good assistant referee from the middle. And within 4 months of moving to Canberra, I was listed on the A-League women's panel, and I suppose the rest is history.
Wow.
I've been there since.
Sounds like it's been like quite the journey, but you've also mentioned you've had a couple of different roles in referee, like being a middle, but also an assistant referee, which you do in the A-League Women's now. But like, how has that kind of journey been like? And I guess just swapping between the two in different leagues.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm a person who still does both, because
Yeah.
I love the challenge of being in the middle. I also love the perspective it gives to me. So as a team player, to support my referee, like I kind of know what they're looking for. And I think as well now, like my role in refereeing in Canberra. So I mentioned like last night I came up from Canberra to Sydney. I actually refereed in the men's NPL last night in the competition in the middle. And what I love about that is, one, I'm giving back to the game locally, like I'm still engaged and bringing back that expertise coming from that elite level football, but also like helping out like the next gen. So I worked with 2 really young assistants yesterday, and we were mic'd up on the comms and we were chatting and stuff and helping them like grow in their role in the game and providing that leadership and mentoring, which when I came through, there wasn't a lot of that. So I think it's really important to do that.
Yeah, it does feel like community, I guess, is a very important thing to you. Like, why is it, I guess, so important to give back, like, as a referee or whatever role you have in football?
I think for me, my journey started in a place where there wasn't many mentors, there wasn't many girls, and I think it's so incredibly important because I don't want anyone to feel isolated, unwelcomed, and feel like they don't have a place. So that's a really big thing for me, to enable that and just to be that person that I didn't have when I was coming through. Because at the end of the day, I want to see more women and girls and more young people taking up the whistle and being involved. Because if you want to have a crack, like, it's a great way to be involved in the sport and give back.
Yeah, so I guess you also mentioned, and I think you mentioned before, that there weren't really many women. Like, when you took that test, you were the only woman out of like 100 men. So
yeah.
Like, how has just that been kind of navigating that? Have there been many challenges that come?
Oh yes, there's been challenges, but I think I always say to people, you don't grow in your comfort zone, and resilience really, like, I've learned a lot of skills about not only the game and how to interact with other people, but about myself. And I think that's incredibly important because it helps shape you to be a stronger person in terms of, what your goals are, what your why is, and what you will and won't accept in terms of behaviour. And I think for me, like, from where I've come from, like the Illawarra, to where I am now, but also the women's competition. Like, when I came onto the A-League, it was 12 years ago, it was a different league. Like, so great to see 22 rounds now, a lot more opportunities, not only for the referees, but for the players, for coaches, to give women that platform to succeed in the sport. When we came in as referees, I might get like 1 or 2 games a year. We didn't really travel. We didn't really have like camps. We weren't paid a retainer. There wasn't even a women's uniform. Like, there was, you would just get whatever kind of uniform was left over. But I think just seeing that progression, it really is inspiring, and it shows women and girls that there is a pathway and there is opportunities, and they see people that look like them in those roles, which is so incredibly important.
So it feels like we've obviously seen, like, I guess, a lot improve with the women's game and like women's football especially, but are there things you would still like to see, whether that's with refereeing, just with the women's league in general?
I think, growth is always really important. Even when you feel like you've hit the top, there's always room for that 1% to improve what you're doing. And, obviously, as with all sports, increased investment, increased visibility, amplifying stories that matter, and ensuring that everyone has a true voice and representation in what decisions are being made that impact them. Because I think, from where we've gone to and where we're going, it's so incredibly important to offer that because, women's sport, it's not a phase, it's here to stay. So let's make sure we're doing what we need to do to support that.
I did want to go back quickly before we move on to kind of the next thing I want to ask about, is that kind of that switch with being a middle and also an assistant referee. Like, do you ever get confused when you're kind of switching?
Confused? Yeah, we can call it that. There are times where I was at the start of this season when I swapped from A or W back into NPL. I was refereeing, I think it was round 1, and they said, "Oh, Del, we need a middle this weekend." And I said, "Yep, no problem. I haven't done it in 6 months, but it's like riding a bike. What else is new?" And I remember running around the middle, and I saw a foul, and in my head, like, as an assistant, you're like, foul, and you like give it with your flag, and I'm standing there like, why is the referee not blowing their whistle? I'm like, oh, God, that's me. Like, I need to blow that whistle. So I think sometimes it's that like little rustiness that kind of like comes out, and maybe where you stand sometimes because my brain automatically goes to assistant referee mode. But a few rounds in and it's like riding a bike, you're back onto it, and it's the usual thing. And because in Canberra, so I'll do a middle, but then I'll also like run a line. So you still kind of do both. So kind of gives you that flexibility to keep those skills and keep on top of it. And I think as well, when you watch games at home, like, I'm terrible. Like, people who, like my family, when they watch games with me, they're like, "Why are you talking about the referee?" Because that's where my brain goes. Like, that's what I'm focused on. So.
Well, I guess you're so used to doing that you don't even watch the game.
And it's funny, my friends now are just like, we watch the referee more than we, like, they come to ALW games and they're watching what I'm doing. Like, where are you moving? And, oh, you're going to put your flag up, or what's happened? So it's actually, it's kind of cool.
That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, it's cool though. I did want to ask as well, like, about just, I guess, the skill set. Like, is there a different skill set for the different roles, and like, I guess, what is it?
Look, I think there's the technical things that are a bit different. Like, I mean, like for an AR, you're focused on things like offside, throw-ins, corner kicks, goal kicks, assisting the referee, and the ref is kind of like the captain of the ship. Like, they kind of roll with most of the big decisions that happen on the field. But I think in terms of consistency, things like, the ability to communicate clearly, that teamwork factor, being really involved from that perspective, and just
Yeah.
ensuring consistency in your decisions. Like if you set a threshold, everyone kind of goes with that, regardless of your role, and having that understanding and respect for one another and what you bring to the team. So I think that's pretty consistent with both roles.
It does feel like a kind of like refereeing can be a thing that I guess anyone can kind of like pick up, I guess. Obviously, you have to do a lot of hard work and train a lot, which you've had to do, but like, would you have any advice for girls getting into it?
Look, I think if you want to have a go, have a go. It is a very different way of looking at the game. It's a really cool way to give back to the game.
Yeah.
If you want to refine your leadership skills, if you want to meet a community of people that really have your back, we are like a big family, the refereeing side of things, talk to your local club. There's courses running all throughout the year. The other thing I'd also recommend is if you see a referee, have a chat. I think what you will find is most referees are really open to having a conversation about what it's like to be a ref, what are some of the things at work. Like I always say to people, have the best seat in the house. You pay to keep fit, and you get to have all sorts of cool experiences that you may not necessarily get to have, and it is, even if it's that grassroots level all the way up to elite, like there's so many great opportunities that come through football.
I did want to ask about a different role that you have, which I think I mentioned in the intro before, is that you're a program manager at Sport Integrity Australia. So I guess that kind of just concentrates on, empowering women and girls just in sport, but can you just talk about what that role kind of involves?
Yeah, I'm incredibly fortunate to work for Sport Integrity Australia. It's a really great opportunity to really refine sport to ensure it's a really safe and inclusive environment for everyone. So the program that I'm the manager for is the Empowering Women and Girls in Sport Integrity program. Essentially, we are focusing on ensuring we are providing an environment where girls can thrive and women and girls can thrive and stay in sport. So that's all the way from grassroots all the way up to the C-suite board level positions. We want to ensure that we're starting to really deter some of those integrity related issues that really impact women and girls' enjoyment and staying in sport. And I think, leading into Brisbane 2032, these factors are so incredibly important because at the end of the day, we want everyone to be involved in sport in a way that they feel safe to do so. And that's a big part of Sport Integrity Australia's remit. And we are really passionate about ensuring that we have the opportunity to really change the makeup and the way we do sport in this country. And, that role is, I'm so blessed to have a position where I can marry my passion outside and that lived experience of, walking the talk of every week I'm out there, on the front line, refereeing in grassroots competitions all the way up to elite. And I see a whole breadth of things, but being able to engage in a way with all the other sports that we have in the sporting ecosystem in Australia, like it's so incredibly important that everyone has that voice and opportunity to really make change that they want to see in sport.
Yeah, and I guess obviously it is a very important thing and a very important role that you're in, but I guess I just wanted to ask more generally, like, why is it so important that you're like personally involved in roles like this as well as being a referee?
I think, I recently did a course that really reshaped and made me really think about my place in sport and where I see my legacy. And that's a big part of my why. So when I reflect on my journey, I just remember back to that young woman who came through the system who really didn't feel like they belonged or had the opportunity, but also wanted to make change because they could see the injustice and the factors that really are the dark side of sport, if that makes sense, and wanting to make it a place where people felt included and felt like they belonged. And, I always laughed that I didn't see any girls that looked like me on a national competition or came from my background or did the things that I've done. And, I want young women to see themselves in someone so they feel like they can have that opportunity to be involved, whether that's on field as a player or as a match official or as a coach. There is an opportunity for you in sport if that's what you want to do.
Well, yeah, I feel like role models, I mean, there's obviously the common saying you can't be what you can't see. And I guess like you said, there weren't really many role models, I guess, when you were younger, like women that looked like you or just people that look like you on TV in general. Like, why do you think it's so important, especially with refereeing, something that you're very passionate about, that there are role models and opportunities for girls to get into it?
I think it's important because at the end of the day, the women's game is increasing at exponential numbers in Australia, and wouldn't it be great to see more women and girls engaged and leading in roles? Like a refereeing is a leadership role, and that's so important as well because that changes the way people perceive our sport and how we engage, because to make genuine change, you need those people in those roles to help shape policies and initiatives and the future and really step into the space we want to see and what we want to see in sport, because sport really is a reflection on society. And at the end of the day, we want to see more women into leadership roles, regardless of whatever that role looks like.
Do you think that those are maybe some of the things people don't realize about refereeing is that you can be like a real leader, like on the field?
Yeah, I think sometimes, and this is a big passion project of mine. I like to humanise refereeing.
Yeah.
I think it's like people often perceive us as, you're the team in black out there that's there to be staunch and, enforce rules, and you don't have like a bit of humour, a bit of banter, and have that leadership capability. But if you think about it, when you step out onto a field every single time, you are leading. You are leading the 22 players that are around you. You are guiding them through the game. You're ensuring respect and integrity in the way the game is run. And, the skills that I've learned through refereeing have shaped me as a leader outside, I think, as well. And the way that I communicate and engage with people, and just that understanding of, wanting to make something better, and those critical skills that make you really a better person. And that comes from refereeing, and that's what that's given me.
Yeah, so it's really helped you in your other role as well.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, well, I always joke with people. I'm like, when I went for my first serious role, refereeing was on my resume, because there are a lot of things in refereeing that employers want to see. So if you're looking for an opportunity, so being punctual, being, well presented, being able to communicate, time management, all those things that come into refereeing, but also teamwork. That is a huge thing that you learn through refereeing, because we always joke about being the third team or team one.
Yeah.
That's because you're out there, you are a team. You've got to rely on your teammates, and together you rise and fall when things go well, and when things don't go so well, you're there together.
Yeah, and I guess another thing I wanted to ask about, and we kind of chatted about this a bit before this interview, is just kind of like the stereotypes and some of the things that people associate with the referees. And sometimes you guys get given a bit of a hard time, which is unfortunate. But how do you kind of like deal with that, I guess, and see that?
Yeah, it's interesting, because a lot of people tend to shy away from it. There is no shying away from it. Abuse, sadly, is an epidemic in Australian sport, and it's not just a football thing. It's across the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I think there's just this perception that I've paid a card, or I've paid a ticket, so I can get in there and scream at the person that is influencing whatever the decision is. Or even on a Saturday morning, little Johnny's out there refereeing at a similar age to the kids that are playing, and the mums and dads are yelling, and people think that's okay. And even in the elite space, some of my A-League colleagues, some of the things that we've experienced, like the online trolling and the DMing after a game, it's really toxic, and sometimes it's really hard to see past that. But that's why it's so important to have some of those conversations and break down those stereotypes, so people remember you're a human on the other side. And sometimes you see something for a split second and you have to make a decision. You just got to call it how it is. All your years of training come into it, and your interpretation of the law. And yeah, sometimes when you're sitting at home on the couch, when you've got the 15 different camera angles, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, I really want people to remember that that's someone's, brother, sister, son, daughter, out there doing the best that they can, and they love the game too. They're not there to ruin it, and they're trying to just give back in a different way.
And you're pretty necessary for the game as well. Can't really go on without
100%. I always say to people, referees are so key, because without refs there isn't a game. But on the flip side, respect is a two-way street, and without the players there isn't a game either. So it's about having that common respect for each other and the roles that we play. Because I always joke, I can't do crosses and free kicks the way some of the players do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they probably can't call an offside the way I can. So it's around that balance. So
yeah, no, I think that's super important. But do you think, I guess, kind of addressing some of this and talking about this more, do you think that would maybe make more girls and boys actually want to get into refereeing and kind of get into these roles?
I think seeing the human side of it, and seeing themselves in somebody that's actually doing those roles, and just opening up more conversations that there is other pathways. You don't just have to be good on field. And it's not even just about refereeing. If you really enjoy the game and you're technical, be a coach or be an administrator, be a volunteer, just be involved in sport, because I think sport has so many incredible things that it gives to our community. And even if you're involved in a small way, it'll make you, I think, more complete and be part of your community and really connect you, because at the end of the day, all of us like to have a family and a group to belong to that kind of has your back and empowers you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and I guess you did speak a bit about it before, but I'm kind of just getting to the end. But I wanted to ask as well, just how has being a referee in general just kind of helped you in all those other areas of your life? What has it been able to give to you?
It's definitely made me a better person, I think. It's made me a lot more resilient, a lot more open to being challenged in the way I think about things. It's really strengthened my communication skills and how I conduct myself. It's made me a better leader, I think, too. Not only leading from the front with changing advocacy things, but also supporting people from the back to make sure that we're pushing everyone in a common goal and direction. But the thing that I can't stress that is the best part about refereeing is the people. Like my best friend, like I met them through refereeing, and they've always got your back, because sometimes it can be a bit lonely. So having that community behind you when it's -5 and you got to do a game and your boots are getting frozen to the ground, they're there supporting you. And I'm so incredibly fortunate. Like my husband is also a referee, and we support each other into the high performance space, and driving to not only perform on field but really make genuine change for the next generation that's coming after us, to ensure that refereeing is a real pathway and people have opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess just more generally, like obviously you mentioned kind of sport before and kind of the dropout rates when girls get to kind of 15, 16, those ages, drop out of sport, but just staying in sport in general with your role in Sports Integrity Australia as well. Like, why has it been just important to stay involved in sport just in general?
Because I just think sport is, honestly, really simply, is the best. Like, I think, nothing unites a nation more than, like, all we're going to do is the Women's World Cup. Like, I have never seen a moment in time where every Australian, irrespective of whether you love football or not, was standing side by side, because it was a common thing that we all were there for and supported. And I think, having the opportunity to be connected in sport and have an opportunity through SIA to actually promote women and girls and really focus on the good parts of sport and how we can shift things to really reflect what society is expecting around those common principles around respect, inclusion, and stamping out things that we don't want to see, like discrimination, racism, sexism, misogyny, and factors in society that really influence us poorly, is so incredibly important. And I can't stress that, enough, that if you want to have your voice heard and you want to have it amplified and have that opportunity, sport is the way to do it, to really make that change.
Yeah, well, it was great to chat to you, and thanks for speaking about things like that. I think it's really important to definitely have role models and referees in this space. So thank you, Del.
Thank you so much, Abby.